The snow fell like whispered secrets that December night, coating the Montana highway in a blanket of white that muffled the world into something almost holy. Almost. But nothing about Mountain Ridge gas station felt holy at 11:47 on Christmas Eve. Just cold, just forgotten, just another pool of fluorescent light bleeding into darkness where truckers stopped to fill their tanks and their thermoses before the long haul towards somewhere that mattered more than here. Behind the humming vending machine, pressed against metal, that radiated faint warmth into the freezing air, a 7-year-old girl named Lily Morrison counted her heartbeats and waited for the world to forget she existed. 6 weeks she'd been here. 6 weeks of learning the rhythms of this place like a song. Her survival depended on which clerk worked, which shift, which truckers left half-eaten sandwiches in the trash, which hours the bathroom stayed unlocked, which shadows offered the deepest refuge from eyes that might ask questions she couldn't answer. Her summer dress, pale yellow with tiny flowers, the kind of thing that belonged to warm afternoons, and mothers who packed lunches hung thin and ridiculous against December's teeth. No coat, no sweater, just that dress and a pair of sneakers held together with hope and duct tape she'd stolen from the maintenance closet 3 weeks ago. Her legs bare from knee to ankle had stopped turning red from the cold days ago. Now they just looked pale bluish, like something carved from ice that might shatter if touched too hard. In her arms clutched tight against her chest, Mr. Patches stared at the world through one remaining button eye. The teddy bear had seen better days, better years, really. His left ear hung by threads. Stuffing leaked from a tear along his belly that Lily had tried to sew shut with dental floss and clumsy fingers. But he was hers, the last thing her mother had given her before the cancer turned her into someone small and gray and gasping in a hospice bed that smelled like industrial cleanser trying to hide something darker underneath. "Be brave, my little lily flower," her mother had whispered, voice thin as tissue paper, fingers cold even through the blankets. "Your grandfather was a biker named William. I never knew him. He died before I was born, but Grandma said he had the kindest eyes and the biggest heart. She said he'd roar up on that motorcycle like thunder, but when he held her hand, it was the gentlest thing in the world." Sarah Morrison had smiled then, the morphine making her eyes distant and dreamy. If you ever meet someone with a white beard and a motorcycle, remember, not all angels have wings, baby. Some have engines. Lily hadn't understood then. Hospice rooms don't leave much space for philosophy when you're 6 years old and watching your only parent dissolve into someone you barely recognize. But she remembered. She remembered everything her mother said in those final weeks, cataloged each word like precious stones she might need to barter with later when the world got even colder than it already was. The cancer took Sarah Morrison on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Lily had thought that was cruel in a way she couldn't articulate, that love's holiday became death's claiming day, that chocolate hearts in store windows mocked the way her mother's actual heart simply stopped beating at 3:17 in the morning, while Lily slept in a chair beside her bed, holding her hand, willing warmth back into fingers that had already begun their journey toward cold. The state came next. Social workers with kind voices and tired eyes telling her it would be okay, that they'd find her a good home, that someone would want her. The Pattersons seemed nice at first. Big house, fenced yard. Mrs. Patterson baked cookies. But Mr. Patterson had a temper that lived right beneath his smile, and when Lily accidentally broke a glass 3 weeks into her stay, she learned exactly how loud his voice could get, how fast his hand could move, how small she could make herself in the corner of her new bedroom that didn't feel like a bedroom at all. Just a cell with cartoon wallpaper. She ran. Third foster home in 8 months, and she ran. Slipped out a window while they slept, took nothing but Mr. Patches and the clothes on her back, and walked until her feet bled and the sun came up and she found herself at this gas station on Highway 89, where the vending machine hummed a lullaby she pretended was her mother's voice, and the 18-wheelers that rumbled past in the night sounded almost like motorcycles if she imagined hard enough. Tommy Anderson worked the night shift Wednesdays through Sundays. 19 years old community college dropout, trying to save money for something better than clerking at a gas station his whole life. He had kind eyes, the kind that looked but didn't really see, which made him perfect for Lily's purposes. He'd noticed her a few times, she was sure of that, but he never said anything. Never called the police, never asked questions. Maybe he thought she was waiting for someone. Maybe he didn't want to know. What Lily didn't know was that Tommy Anderson had his own ghosts. His uncle Jake Hell's Angel Full Patch, the kind of man who looked like he'd break you in half, but who'd taught Tommy to ride a bike to throw a baseball to stand up when other kids knocked him down, had died 2 years ago. Heart attack on the highway bike went down, and just like that, the only father figure Tommy ever knew was gone. Tommy saw things differently after that. Saw how fragile life was, how quickly someone could be there, and then not. When he noticed the small blonde girl behind the vending machine that first week of November, something in his chest tightened. He should have called someone. He knew that, but he also knew what the system did to kids with nowhere to go. Uncle Jake used to talk about that, about the broken children who fell through cracks that swallowed them whole. So Tommy left sandwiches in the trash ones he'd accidentally made wrong and couldn't serve. Left the bathroom unlocked even when policy said to secure it at night. Turned the heat up a little higher than regulations allowed. He didn't save her, but he didn't turn her in either. Maybe that was its own kind of saving. Lily learned to read Tommy's patterns like scripture. He took his break at midnight, stepping outside for a cigarette he thought nobody knew about. That's when she'd slip from behind the machine ghost quick to the bathroom, fill her water bottle, grab whatever food he'd left in the trash, and disappear again before the cigarette burned down to filter. She'd learned to be invisible. Invisible kept you alive when you had nothing and nobody. But there was one person she'd started watching who made her want to be visible again. Every Friday night, just after 10, a Harley Davidson would rumble into the station. Not the loud, aggressive kind that some bikers rode like they were trying to wake the dead and pick a fight with their ghosts. This one sounded different, deeper, steadier, like a heartbeat big enough to feel in your chest even when you weren't the one riding it. The man who climbed off that bike moved slowly, carefully, like someone whose body had logged too many miles and was starting to send invoices for the damage. White beard long and full, catching the fluorescent light like fresh snow. Black leather vest over a thermal shirt, the Hell's Angels patch spread across his back, a stylized phoenix wrapped around an iron cross. Wings spread wide like they might actually lift the whole damn world if they tried hard enough. Tattoos covered both arms, full sleeves of ink that told stories Lily couldn't read but wanted to. A skull sat prominent on his bicep, detailed and fierce, but somehow not frightening. Just honest about what waited at the end of every road. He'd go inside, order coffee black, 2 sugars. She'd heard him say it enough to memorize. And he'd talk to Tommy. Not the way adults usually talk to teenagers, that half condescending tone that said they weren't really listening. This man asked questions, listened to answers, asked about Tommy's mom who was fighting her own battle with something Tommy called the bad kind of sick. Offered phone numbers for specialists, support groups, resources that people with money and connections knew about, but people like Tommy never did. Then he'd take his coffee outside, sit on his bike for 20 minutes, and stare at the stars like he was reading a book written in constellations. Sometimes his lips moved like he was talking to someone who wasn't there. Sometimes his shoulders shook in a way that Lily recognized because she'd done it herself late at night, when the cold and the loneliness got too heavy to hold silent. Lily didn't know his name, didn't know his story, but she knew kindness when she saw it, and kindness had become rare enough in her world that she'd learned to recognize it the way sailors recognize lighthouse beams in storms that wanted to drown them. She started calling him the angel, not out loud. She never spoke out loud anymore. Unless absolutely necessary, her voice had become something she kept locked away like jewelry too precious to wear. But in her head, in the private space where she still allowed herself to hope for things, he was the angel. The motorcycle angel her mother had described. The one with kind eyes and a gentle heart wrapped in thunder. 4 weeks she'd watched him. 4 Friday nights of witnessing this ritual, this strange meditation of coffee and stars and silent conversations with ghosts. And somewhere in that, watching something had shifted in Lily's chest. The angel became important, became proof that her mother hadn't been wrong, that good people existed, that the world wasn't just Mr. Patterson's with fast hands and foster homes. that felt like prisons with better wallpaper. She made a decision in week 3, clutching Mr. Patches in the dark behind her machine while the angel sat on his bike and breathed cold air into clouds. If anything ever happened to him, if the cruelty she'd learned to expect from the world ever came for him, she wouldn't hide. She wouldn't be invisible. She'd do something. It was a child's logic, simple and absolute. Good people were rare. If good people died and only bad ones remained, what was the point of surviving? What was the point of being invisible in a world that had gone completely dark? So she decided. She'd protect him if she had to, somehow. Even though she was 7 years old and weighed maybe 50 pounds soaking wet and had nothing to offer but a torn teddy bear and a voice she'd almost forgotten how to use. She decided not knowing that decision would change everything. Not knowing that tonight, this specific Friday night Christmas Eve, when snow fell like prayers, nobody was listening to anymore. The universe would call her bluff and ask if she really meant it. The angel arrived at 10:14, 3 minutes later than usual. His movements looked stiffer tonight, like the cold had settled deeper into joints that already carried too many winters. Lily watched from her hiding place as he stood beside the bike for a long moment, with his hand on the seat, like he was gathering strength for the simple act of walking inside. Through the window, she could see him approach the counter where Tommy waited. Saw Tommy's face light up the way it always did when the angel arrived. Saw them exchange words she couldn't hear but could imagine. "How's your mom?" "Better, thank you for asking. You staying warm out there trying to coffee black 2 sugars. You know it." The angel took his cup carefully in hands that had probably held 1,000 things in their lifetime, but treated this paper cup like it mattered. Like everything mattered, even the small things, maybe especially the small things. He turned toward the door, and that's when Lily saw them. The pickup truck had been idling at the far pump when the angel arrived, engine running, rough exhaust, coughing gray clouds into the clean white snow. 3 men leaned against it, voices loud in that particular way. Drunk people get loud, performance, volume advertising their presence to a world they believed owed them attention. Lily had learned to catalog threats. Survival skill necessary as breathing. These 3 radiated wrongness like heat from asphalt in summer. The tallest one held a baseball bat, tapping it against his boot in a rhythm that had nothing to do with music and everything to do with violence, looking for an excuse. Flannel shirts stained with things Lily didn't want to identify. Faces flushed red from alcohol or anger or both. Eyes that moved constantly searching for something they could hurt. Derek Walsh, though Lily didn't know his name, was 36 years old and had spent most of those years making the world worse for everyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. 2 weeks ago, the Hells Angels had intervened when he'd been beating his wife, Julie, in this same parking lot, dragging her by her hair, while she screamed and their 5-year-old daughter watched from the truck's back seat. They'd stopped him, embarrassed him, made him feel small in front of his friends, in front of his daughter, in front of Julie, who'd looked at her rescuers with something like hope breaking through years of fear. Derek hadn't forgotten. Humiliation festered in men like him, turned septic, waited for opportunities to lance itself onto whoever happened to be convenient. Tonight the angel was convenient. Lily watched Derek push off from the truck. Watched him take 3 deliberate steps into the path the angel would have to walk. Watched the way he positioned himself, the way his friends straightened up, the way the bat stopped tapping and started rising slightly, anticipation making it hungry. The angel didn't see it coming. His head was down, protecting his coffee from the wind, his mind probably somewhere else, wherever he went when he stared at stars and talked to people who weren't there anymore. He stepped through the glass doors into the cold and nearly walked straight into Derek's chest. "Whoa there, old-timer," Derek said, voice dripping false friendliness like poison from a cracked bottle. "Better watch where you're going." The coffee sloshed, just a small wave, the kind that happens when you stop suddenly and physics takes over. A splash leapt from the cup's rim and landed on Derek's boot. Not much, maybe a tablespoon. Not even hot anymore, the cold having stolen most of its heat during the angel's meditation. Just a brown stain spreading across leather that had seen worse. But it was enough. Derek looked down at his boot like the angel had set it on fire. His friends saw it too, and they started laughing, that cruel laughter that feeds on someone else's misfortune, that turns small accidents into moral failings, that gives permission for what comes next. You think that's funny, old man? Derek's voice changed, got quieter, colder, more dangerous. You think you can just spill coffee on me? Son, I apologize, the angel said, and his voice was gentle, genuinely. Sorry, the kind of apology that came from someone who believed in courtesy and manners and treating people with basic human respect. That was clumsy of me. Let me buy you new boots, or clean them, or whatever makes this right. Shut up. Derek stepped closer. You bikers think you own this town. Think you can embarrass me in my own parking lot, make me look weak in front of my family. The angel's expression shifted. Recognition. He knew Derek Lilly realized, knew what this was really about. That wasn't about embarrassing you, he said quietly. That was about protecting your wife from getting hurt, your daughter from seeing things no child should see. Derek shoved him, both hands hard against the angel's chest. The angel stumbled backward, tried to catch his balance, but his boots hit ice that had been hiding beneath fresh snow. His feet slid, his arms windmilled. The coffee cup flew from his hands, spinning brown spirals into the white world. He went down hard, the kind of fall that knocks the air from your lungs and the sense from your brain. But worse than the fall was what followed the Harley, that beautiful machine he'd parked so carefully, tipped with him chrome and steel, and hundreds of pounds of motorcycle crashing onto its side and pinning his right leg beneath it. The angel grunted, a sound more surprised than pained at first, but then the pain caught up and his face went white under the beard. He tried to push the bike off, but it wouldn't budge. Too heavy, wrong angle, and his leg was screaming things his face was too tough to admit. Derek's friends Kyle Murphy and Brad Collins moved in from either side. Not to help, to enjoy. Kyle grabbed the angel's shoulder, pressing him down when he tried to rise. Brad pulled out his phone, already recording, already documenting this for whatever vicious replay they'd enjoy later. Now you've gone and done it, Derek said, and he lifted the baseball bat. Slow, deliberate. Let the angel see it coming. Let fear have its moment to bloom. Spilled coffee on my boot. Disrespected me. Again. You know what happens to people who disrespect me? The angel looked up at him. No begging in those eyes, no pleading. Just a kind of weary recognition, like he'd always known the world was this cruel and was just disappointed to have the proof confirmed again. He tried to reach for the bat, but Kyle held him down. Tried to shift his leg, but the Harley had him trapped. Through the gas station window, Tommy saw what was happening. His hands scrambled for the phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers, voice tumbling over itself, trying to explain to the dispatcher what was happening, while also knowing that help wouldn't arrive in time. Not for this, not for what was about to happen. But Tommy made another call too. Muscle memory from a lifetime of watching his Uncle Jake handle emergencies. He scrolled to a number labeled simply Hawk and hit send phone pressed to his ear while he narrated the violence unfolding outside his window to the 911 operator who kept saying help was on the way, help was coming. Just a few more minutes, sir. Minutes the angel didn't have. Derek raised the bat higher. The angel's eyes closed. Not in fear, Lily thought. In acceptance. In the sad knowledge that sometimes the good guys don't win. Sometimes the monsters get their way. Sometimes you die in a gas station parking lot on Christmas Eve because you spilled coffee on a coward's boot, and that coward couldn't handle the weight of his own worthlessness. And Lily Morrison, 7 years old, 48 pounds, invisible, girl behind a humming vending machine, made a choice. Not a heroic choice, not a smart choice, a choice driven by something simpler and more desperate than courage, the absolute refusal to watch another good thing die while she did nothing. The refusal to be invisible one more second when visibility might save the only proof she had left that her mother wasn't wrong about angels. She exploded from behind the machine like something desperate fleeing something worse. Her summer dress whipped around her thin legs. Her sneakers slapped snow, leaving prints that looked too small to carry this much determination. Mr. Patches clutched in one hand held like a weapon or a shield or a prayer. Derek heard her coming, started to turn, but she was already there, already throwing her body between the bat and the angel, spreading herself as wide as her small frame would allow, trying to cover as much of him as she could with herself. It wasn't much. Her whole body wouldn't cover his torso, but she tried. She tried with everything she had. Please! The word ripped from her throat, rusty from disuse, but loud enough to shatter the night. Please don't hurt him. 4 sets of eyes locked onto her. Derek's, Kyle's, Brad's, confused, annoyed, already dismissing her. And the angel's wide with horror, with fear, not for himself, but for this child who had just made herself a target. Kid what? The Derek lowered the bat slightly more from shock than mercy. Get out of here before you get hurt too. No. Lily pushed the word out louder, tears freezing on her cheeks as fast as they fell. She held Mr. Patches toward Derek, arms shaking so hard her whole body vibrated with it. Take him, take my bear. He's all I have. He's the only thing left from my mom. And I'll give him to you. I'll give you anything. Just please don't hurt the angel. The what? Derek blinked. Then he saw the beard, the white whiskers catching snowflakes in cruel understanding dawn. He laughed. Santa. You think this old bastard is Santa Claus? I think he's good, Lily screamed, and she was crying fully now, snot and in tears mixing with snow on her face. I think he's the only good thing I've seen in forever, and you can't kill good things. There's not enough left. If all the good things die, then what's left? What's left? The words hung in the air like smoke, like truth too honest for the world to hold. For just a heartbeat, nobody moved. Snow fell. Engines idled. Somewhere far away, a siren started its journey toward them, too late, too slow. Then Derek's face twisted, not into something softer, into something worse. Rage at being made to feel something, anything resembling shame or self-awareness. Rage at this child for holding up a mirror he didn't want to look into. Get off him! Derek grabbed for Lily's shoulder, trying to pull her away. She held tighter to the angel fingers digging into his vest. I said move. He swung the bat to scare her. Just to scare her, make her let go, get her out of the way so he could finish what he'd started. But Lily wouldn't move. And Derek was drunk, and the bat that was supposed to whistle over her head instead cracked across her shoulder and spine. The sound was terrible. Wood meeting bone meeting flesh too thin to protect what it covered. Lily's scream cut through the night like glass, breaking high and sharp and wrong. She crumpled forward onto the angel's chest, but even then she didn't let go. Jesus Christ! Kyle stepped back, hands up. Derek, you hit her? You actually hit a kid. I didn't mean she was. Derek stared at the bat like it had betrayed him. Brad's phone was still recording, still capturing everything. The tiny girl covering the old man, the desperate offer of the teddy bear. The words about good things dying, the swing, the hit, the scream, everything. Inside the station, Tommy's voice cracked as he shouted into the phone to Hawk, to 911, to anyone who would listen. He hit her. He hit the kid. She's maybe 7 years old, and he hit her with a bat. The angel roared. Not a word, just sound, pure rage and horror-given voice. He caught the bat with his free hand when Derek tried to raise it again, yanked hard enough that Derek stumbled. Kyle and Brad were already backing toward the truck, faces gone pale alcohol haze, burning off in the cold reality of what they'd just done, what Brad had just filmed. Derek followed, stumbling, leaving the bat behind. They piled into the truck, engine gunning tires spinning on snow before catching traction. They fled into the night like the cowards they'd always been leaving behind tire tracks and coffee stains, and a 7-year-old girl bleeding in the snow. The angel pushed at Lily gently, frantically. Child, let me see, let me check if you're okay. Don't leave, she whispered against his chest, blood on her lip where she'd bitten through it, shoulder already swelling, back screaming. But she held on. Everyone leaves, promise you won't leave. I'm not going anywhere. His voice broke. I promise, little one. I'm not going anywhere. Tommy burst from the station coat, forgotten phone still in hand. Ambulance is coming. Police are on the way. Lily saw the blood starting to seep through the thin yellow dress, saw her tiny body curled around the old biker, like she was protecting him from the whole cruel world. Who is she? Tommy asked, knowing the answer having known for weeks. I don't know, the angel said, but she just saved my life. In the distance, sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights began to paint the snow. Help was coming, too late to prevent what had happened, but soon enough to catch what came after. Lily felt the angel's hand gentle on her back, felt the careful way he held her, like she was something precious rather than something disposable. Felt his heartbeat under her ears steady and strong, proof he was alive. Proof good things could survive if someone was willing to stand between them and the bats. "What's your name, brave one?" he asked softly. She hadn't said her name out loud in so long, hadn't been anyone to anyone in months. But she said it now, small and certain. "Lily, my name is Lily Morrison." "Lily," he repeated like he was memorizing it. "I'm Marcus Sullivan, but people call me Bear." "Bear," she whispered, like a teddy bear. Something like that. "I knew you were an angel," she said, and her eyes were already closing, shock and pain pulling her toward darkness. "My mom said angels wear all kinds of faces." She was right. Your mom sounds like she was very wise. She was. Past tense, the saddest two words in any language. The ambulance arrived in a wash of light and sound. Paramedics swarmed gentle hands trying to separate Lily from Bear, but she wouldn't let go. Wouldn't release his vest, no matter how they coaxed. "Let her hold on." Bear told them, voice rough with pain and something deeper. "She needs to hold on." So they worked around her, lifted the Harley with practiced teamwork, freed Bear's leg, checked Lily's vitals while she clung to the stranger she decided was worth saving, loaded them both into the ambulance because sometimes the injured need each other more than they need space. As the doors closed, Bear looked down at the child in his arms, blonde hair matted with snow and tears, blue eyes fighting to stay open, thin arms wrapped around a teddy bear that had seen better days, but had just been offered as ransom for a stranger's life. He thought about Emma, about his granddaughter who died at 7 protecting her little brother, about how courage seemed to live in small bodies with fierce hearts, about how he'd spent 15 years wondering if he'd failed her somehow, if he could have saved her, if his presence would have made any difference. And now this child, this stranger, had answered that question, had shown him that some people are simply born knowing that standing between the bat and the good thing is the only choice worth making. That size doesn't measure courage. That sometimes angels are 7 years old and shivering in summer dresses, and they save you without ever meaning to save themselves. "You're going to be okay," he promised her, though he didn't know if he was lying. "We're both going to be okay." Lily's fingers found something on Mr. Patch's, a small pin attached to his collar, weathered and old. She traced it with her thumb, too tired to really see it, but feeling its shape. Letters she couldn't read in the ambulance's dim light. Bear saw it too, and his heart stopped. Sullivan Family Reunion, 2015. His family reunion, the last one before the crash that took Michael and Emma, before his world had ended the first time. They'd made pins that year, handed them out to everyone who attended. He still had his somewhere in a drawer he couldn't bear to open. But how did this child have one? "Where did you get that pin?" he asked, voice barely audible over the siren. Lily's eyes were closed now, words slurring with exhaustion and shock. "Mom's stuff. She had a box. From before I was born. This was in it." "What was your mother's name?" "Before she was Morrison." "Sullivan," Lily whispered. "Sarah Sullivan. She married my dad, Marcus Morrison. I'm named after both of them. Lily Marcus Morrison." The world tilted. Bear's vision blurred. Sarah Sullivan, Michael's wife. Emma's mother. The daughter-in-law who'd disappeared after the crash, who'd taken her grief and her unborn child and vanished into a silence he'd respected. Because what else could he do? He tried to reach out, tried to maintain connection, but she'd changed her number. Moved away, started over somewhere he couldn't find her. And he'd let her go, because that's what you did when people needed to heal in ways you couldn't help with. He'd never known she was pregnant when she left. Never known there was a grandchild out there growing up without him, without family, without anyone after Sarah died. Until tonight. Until a 7-year-old girl threw herself in front of a baseball bat to save a grandfather she didn't know she had. Bear pulled Lily closer, careful of her injuries, and he wept into her hair while the ambulance screamed through the snow toward the hospital. Wept for Michael and Emma, for Sarah and all the years lost, for this child who'd been alone when she should have been loved, for the impossible mathematics of tragedy that had brought them together in the worst possible way that might somehow become the best possible thing. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered against her forehead. "I promise you, Lily, you're not alone anymore." She She didn't hear him. She'd already slipped into unconsciousness, finally allowing her body to rest now that someone else was holding the weight. Finally trusting that maybe, just maybe this time, someone wouldn't leave. In her hand, Mr. Patches stared at the ambulance ceiling, with his single-button eye, the Sullivan family reunion pin gleaming dully in the red emergency light. And somewhere above Montana, in the space between stars and snow, maybe Sarah Sullivan smiled. Maybe she'd been steering this all along. Maybe sometimes the cruelest coincidences are actually the most careful plans executed by people who loved you from places you couldn't see, but could somehow feel. Maybe angels really did wear all kinds of faces, even the face of a 7-year-old girl in a summer dress who decided that good things were worth protecting no matter the cost. The hospital smelled like every hospital antiseptic trying to mask something organic and afraid underneath fluorescent lights, humming their nervous song, the particular silence that exists only in places where people wait to find out if the worst has happened or if they've been granted another day. Bear sat in the emergency room with his leg elevated, x-rays showing deep bruising, but no breaks, while 3 curtains over a team of doctors examined a little girl who shouldn't have survived what she'd survived, but had anyway because sometimes stubbornness outweighs physics. Tommy Anderson sat with him, having locked up the gas station and followed the ambulance in his beat-up Honda. The young man's hands shook as he scrolled through his phone, watching the video that was already spreading across the internet like wildfire in a drought. Brad's footage, uploaded before they had even fled the scene, shared in some misguided attempt to justify what they'd done, or maybe just document their cruelty for posterity. But the internet had its own sense of justice. The comments weren't celebrating the violence. They were demanding blood. "It's got 2 million views already," Tommy said quietly, voice hollow with shock. "People are God. Bear, they're losing their minds. Someone found Derek's Facebook, his address, his workplace. They're doxing all 3 of them." Bear didn't care about Derek Walsh or his friends or what the internet mob wanted to do to them. His eyes stayed fixed on the curtain hiding Lily from view, ears straining for any sound, a cry, a whimper, anything that meant she was still fighting. "You called Hawk," Bear asked, though he already knew the answer. "Before I even called you back," he said. Tommy swallowed hard. He said to sit tight, that the brothers were coming. Bear nodded. The brothers were always coming. That's what the patch meant. When one of them fell, the rest came running. But this was different. This wasn't a biker down. This was a child who'd taken a hit meant for him, a child who might be his mind still struggled to wrap around it, his own granddaughter lost for 7 years and found in the worst way possible. The curtain pulled back. Dr. Jennifer Walsh emerged, no relation to Derek despite the shared surname, her face professionally neutral, but eyes soft with the kind of compassion that separates good doctors from ones just doing a job. "Mr. Sullivan?" She approached, clipboard in hand. "You're here with Lily Morrison." "Yes." Bear stood despite his leg's protest. "How is she?" "Stable. Bruising across her right shoulder and spine consistent with blunt force trauma. We've done x-rays and a CT scan to rule out internal bleeding. She's incredibly lucky, no fractures, no organ damage. Kids are resilient in ways adults aren't. Their bones are more flexible, their body's better at absorbing impact." She paused. "That said, she's severely malnourished, dehydrated, shows signs of long-term exposure to cold. When's the last time she had a proper meal?" Bear's jaw tightened. "I don't know, I just met her tonight." Dr. Walsh's eyebrows rose. "But you're listed as her emergency contact." He struggled for words that made sense. "I think I might be her grandfather. Her biological grandfather. She's been living on the streets. I didn't know she existed until tonight." The doctor processed this years of emergency room experience, keeping her expression neutral, even as her heart broke a little at yet another story of a child falling through society's cracks. Child Protective Services has been notified. They'll want to speak with her once she's awake, establish her situation. "No," the word came out harder than Bear intended. "I'm sorry, doctor, but no. That system already failed her. I'm not letting them take her back." "Mr. Sullivan, I understand you're upset, but there are procedures." "She saved my life," Bear's voice cracked. "A 7-year-old child with nothing living behind a vending machine And she threw herself in front of a baseball bat because she thought I was worth saving. You tell me what procedure covers that. You tell me what form I fill out to make sure she never has to be that afraid or that alone again. Dr. Walsh softened. I have a daughter. If someone had protected her the way Lily protected you, I'd burn the world down to keep that person safe. She glanced at her clipboard, then made a decision. CPS is swamped on Christmas Eve. Might take them a few hours to send someone, maybe longer. And Lily needs observation anyway, head trauma protocol, even though scans were clear. She'll be here at least overnight. A meaningful look. What happens in those hours is between you and her. Thank you, Bear said quietly. Don't thank me. Just figure it out, because that little girl deserves better than what she's been getting. The doctor left. Tommy stood awkward and young. I should head back, make sure the station's secured. But Bear, whatever you need. Uncle Jake would have wanted me to help. Bear gripped his shoulder. You already did. You called the cavalry. Speaking of which, Tommy nodded toward the emergency room entrance, where the automatic doors had just whooshed open, admitting a wave of cold air, and something else, the rumble of multiple motorcycles idling in the parking lot, the smell of leather and gasoline, the particular energy that comes when bikers arrive en masse. Hawk Morrison walked in first 6 feet of controlled intensity, in a black leather vest, his Phoenix and Iron Cross patch catching the fluorescent light. Silver streaked through his dark hair, close-trimmed beard, framing a face that had seen too much and forgiven too little. Behind him came 3 more, raven black with the club's only full-patch woman, her ink-covered arms crossed over her chest, and her eyes already scanning for threats. Miles Chains Peterson, 60-something, and built like a fire hydrant, his weathered face creased with concern, and younger prospect named Danny Clark, barely 25, but already wearing the hard look of someone who'd learned that family wasn't always blood. A nurse intercepted them. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you two. We're here for Bear Sullivan's, Hawk said, voice polite but immovable, and the child who saved his life. We're not leaving. The nurse looked at 4 bikers who just announced they were staying, did the mental math on how that confrontation would go, and made the wise choice. Waiting room's that way. Keep it quiet. They found Bear standing outside Lily's curtained area, and the relief that washed across his face when he saw them was naked and raw. Hawk crossed the distance in 3 strides and pulled him into a brief, fierce hug, the kind men give when words aren't enough. But presence is everything. Tell me, Hawk said simply. So Bear told them. All of it. The attack, the coffee, Derek's rage, Lily appearing from nowhere. The bat hitting her instead of him. The ambulance ride. And then voice-breaking the impossible revelation about the pin, about Sarah Sullivan, about a granddaughter he never knew existed. When he finished, silence held a small space. Raven spoke first, her voice rough with emotion she rarely let show. A 7-year-old, living homeless, and she still chose to save you. She didn't just save him, Tommy added quietly. She's been watching him for weeks. She told the paramedics in the ambulance before she passed out. Said she decided if anything happened to the angel, she wouldn't hide. That good people were too rare to let die. The Angel Chain's gravel voice held wonder. That's what she called him? Because of the beard. Her mother told her angels wear different faces, and she decided bikers must be the angels nobody expects. Something shifted in the air. 4 battle-hardened bikers, men who'd seen violence and death and cruelty in forms most people couldn't imagine, stood silent in a hospital hallway on Christmas morning because a child had decided they were worth believing in. Where are the 3 who did this? Danny asked, and his tone suggested he had plans that didn't involve legal procedures. Gone. Sheriff's looking for them. Bear met Hawk's eyes. But that's not what matters right now. What matters is Lily. CPS is coming. They'll put her back in the system. She'll disappear into foster homes that don't give a damn, and I'll lose her again before I even get to know her. Not happening, Raven said flatly. I was a social worker for 12 years before I got smart and quit. I know how this works. That girl needs family, needs stability, needs someone who will fight for her. Your blood, that gives you standing. I'm 68 years old, living alone in a house that hasn't seen a child in 15 years. What judge is going to give me custody? You're not alone. Hawk's voice carried weight. You've got a whole damn club behind you. We'll make it work. Hawk, you can't promise. Watch me. The club president pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. I know people, lawyers who owe us favors, judges who remember when we helped their kids. We start making calls now. Get ahead of CPS, establish you as next of kin before they can shuffle her into the system. And in the meantime, Raven added she needs somewhere safe, somewhere warm, somewhere that isn't a hospital or a group home. She met Bear's eyes. My place. I've got the space, the background checks already done from my social work days. She stays with me while we sort legalities. You visit every day. We show CPS she's got family, got stability, got people who actually give a damn. Bear's throat tightened. Raven, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. That little girl stood between a bat and one of ours. Far as I'm concerned, that makes her one of ours too. The curtain moved. Lily was awake. Bear entered slowly and his heart cracked at what he saw. She looked even smaller in the hospital bed, swallowed by white sheets and monitors that beeped her heartbeat into the sterile air. Her shoulder was bandaged, bruises already blooming purple and black across pale skin. But her eyes were open, those blue eyes he'd seen in his son Michael, in his granddaughter Emma eyes that were family even before he knew family was what they were. Bear. Her voice came out small and scratchy. You're still here. Told you I wasn't leaving. He pulled a chair close, set carefully. How do you feel? Sore. Thirsty. She looked around the room, taking in the monitors and IV line. Am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. You did something incredibly brave. Maybe the bravest thing I've ever seen. Are you okay? Your legs? Bruised. Nothing broken. Thanks to you. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her small hand in his large one. Lily, we need to talk about some things. About your mother, about your family. She tensed. Are you going to send me away to a new foster home? Never. I'm going to tell you something that might sound strange, but I need you to listen. Can you do that? She nodded, wary but willing. Your mother's name was Sarah Sullivan before she married your father, right? Yes. She said Sullivan was her maiden name. She didn't like to talk about her family much. Said it hurt too much because they were gone. Bear pulled out his phone, hands shaking slightly as he scrolled to an old photo. Is this your mother? The picture showed a young woman at a barbecue, maybe 25 years old, laughing as a man Bear's age threw a frisbee in the background. Sarah's blonde hair caught the sunlight, blue eyes bright with joy that hadn't yet been touched by the tragedies coming. Lily gasped, That's Mommy. When she was young, how do you have a picture of my mommy? Because that young woman was my daughter-in-law. She was married to my son, Michael. They had a daughter together named Emma. Emma, Lily interrupted, eyes going wide. Mommy talked about Emma sometimes when she was really sad. She said Emma was an angel baby who went to heaven too soon and that I would have loved her. Bear had to stop breathe through the grief that wanted to swallow him. Emma was 7 when she died, in a car accident that also killed my son, Michael. Your mother was pregnant with you when it happened. She survived, but he gestured helplessly. She left. She was grieving and I understood, so I didn't push. I didn't know about you, Lily. I didn't know I had another grandchild out there. Lily processed this slowly, her young mind working through genealogies and connections. So you're my grandpa. My real grandpa. If you'll have me, yes, I'm your real grandpa. But you didn't know about me. No, and I'm so sorry. If I had known, if I'd had any idea you existed, I would have found you. I would have made sure you never had to live behind a vending machine or run from foster homes. Your family, Lily, you've always been family. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I don't have any family. Mommy died and Daddy left when I was a baby and there's nobody. There's me. Bear squeezed her hand gently. There's me, and there's a whole community of people outside that curtain who want to make sure you're safe. You're not alone anymore. People leave, she whispered. Everyone always leaves. I won't. I promise you, Lily Morrison Sullivan, I will not leave. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. How can you promise that you don't even know me? I know you threw yourself in front of a bat for a stranger. I know you offered the only thing you had in the world to save someone you thought deserved saving. I know your mother raised you to believe in angels and kindness, even though the world gave you every reason to stop believing. That's enough. That's more than enough. Lily cried, then deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Tears for her mother and for being alone, and for 7 years of terror and grief she'd been holding inside like secrets too heavy to share. Bear held her as carefully as he could, mindful of her injuries, and he cried too because that's what you do when you find someone you thought you'd lost forever, and they're broken but still somehow whole enough to cry about. When the storm passed, Lily pulled back slightly. What happens now? Do I have to go back? No foster homes. I've got friends working on it, good people, lawyers, folks who know how to navigate the system. In the meantime, there's a woman named Raven. She used to help kids like you for a living before she decided the system was broken and she could do more outside it. She's got a safe place warm with a P who loves everybody and a bedroom that needs someone to fill it. Would you be willing to stay there while we sort out the paperwork? Will you be there every single day? I'll visit so often you'll get sick of me. A tiny smile cracked through the tears. I don't think I could get sick of you. You say that now. Wait until you hear my opinions on modern music. The smile grew a fraction, then faded. What about the men? The ones who hurt us? Sheriff's looking for them. They'll answer for what they did. Will they come back? Will they hurt you again? Bear thought about the phone that was probably ringing right now in Hawk's hand, about the network of bikers already mobilizing across county lines, about 500 sets of eyes that would make sure Derek Walsh and his friends couldn't hide anywhere in Montana without being seen. No, sweetheart. They won't come back. I promise you that. Raven entered, then moving quietly, deferring to the moment until Bear waved her closer. Lily, this is Raven. She's well. She's family too. Different kind, but just as real. Raven sat on the bed's edge and her weathered face softened in ways Bear had rarely seen. Hey there, brave girl. Heard you had quite a night. Lily studied her, the tattoos, the leather vest, the skull inked on her bicep, the hard exterior that didn't quite hide the gentle soul beneath. Are you an angel too? Raven laughed, surprised and delighted. Honey, I'm probably the furthest thing from an angel you'll ever meet. I've made mistakes, bad choices got scars inside and out. But I'm good at keeping people safe, especially kids who deserve better than what they've been getting. Bear says I might stay with you. Only if you want to. It's your choice. Always your choice. I've got a house about 20 minutes from here. Nothing fancy, but it's warm. Got a dog named Tank who's too dumb to be scary and too sweet to be useful as a guard dog. Got a bedroom with a window that looks out on the mountains. Got a kitchen where we can make hot chocolate and burn toast and figure out what you actually like to eat. She paused. Got space for a little girl who needs to remember what safe feels like. Do I have to call you Mom? God, no. Call me Raven. Call me Hey You. Call me whatever feels right. You had a mom. I'm not trying to replace her. I'm just trying to be someone reliable who shows up. Lily looked between them, Bear with his white beard and kind eyes, Raven with her ink and leather and blunt honesty. Not parents, not in the traditional sense, but maybe something better. Maybe people who'd chosen her not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Because she'd shown them something they needed to see. Okay, Lily said softly, I'll try. That's all any of us can do, Raven replied. Try and keep trying, and eventually maybe it sticks. A nurse entered with discharge papers and the news that CP had been delayed wouldn't arrive until late morning at earliest. Dr. Walsh had approved Lily's release into Raven's temporary custody, given her social work background, and Bear's familial claim pending official investigation. Red tape and Christmas staffing had bought them time. They took it. Raven's truck was warm heater blasting against the pre-dawn cold. Bear sat in the passenger seat, legs still aching. Lily was bundled in the back in a coat someone had donated from the hospital's lost and found. Mr. Patches clutched tight in her arms, watching the world slide past the window, like she couldn't quite believe she was leaving the hospital in a vehicle that wasn't an ambulance or a police car. The sun was just thinking about rising, painting the Montana sky in shades of pink and gold that promised the kind of Christmas morning people wrote songs about. Snow covered everything in white, so pure it hurt to look at, and for the first time in months, Lily felt something other than cold when she looked at it. She felt possibility. You ever had real hot chocolate? Raven asked from the driver's seat. Not the packet stuff. Real chocolate melted down with milk and marshmallows. I don't think so, Lily admitted. Well then, we've got work to do. They drove through a town still mostly sleeping, past houses with Christmas lights, twinkling in windows past a church where early service was about to start. And following them in a staggered formation that looked tall, but was absolutely deliberate, 20 motorcycles rolled through the morning. Word had spread. The local chapter had gathered, not to intimidate, not to threaten, just to escort, to make sure this little girl who'd saved one of their own made it safely to her new temporary home. Protection without being asked. Presence without expectation. Family showing up because that's what family does. Raven's house sat on 3 acres outside town limits, a Rambler-style home that had seen better days, but wore its age comfortable like jeans broken and exactly right. Christmas lights hung slightly crooked along the eaves. A motorcycle sat covered under a tarp in the driveway. Smoke curled from the chimney, lazy and welcoming. "It's not much," Raven said as she parked, "but it's yours as long as you need it." Before Lily could respond, the front door burst open and a brown blur of enthusiasm exploded into the yard. Tank the dog, some kind of lab mastiff mix with more heart than brain cells, bounded through the snow, straight to the truck, tail whipping so hard his whole back end wagged. Lily's face lit up for the first time since the attack. "Is that Tank?" "That's him. Fair warning, he's got no concept of personal space and thinks everyone needs to be licked immediately." They let Lily out carefully, mindful of her injuries. Tank approached like she was the best thing he had ever seen, pushed his massive head under her hand, and groaned in ecstasy when she scratched his ears. "I think he likes me," Lily said, wonder in her voice. "That dog likes everybody, but yeah, you're special, though. He knows." Raven led them inside Tank, glued to Lily's side like he'd been assigned guard duty, and took it seriously. The house smelled like pine and coffee and something baking that Raven admitted she'd thrown in the oven before leaving. Cinnamon rolls. Figured we'd need comfort food. They're probably burned, but we'll manage. The living room was lived in worn couch brick fireplace, crackling with real wood, Christmas tree leaning slightly in the corner, with ornaments that looked handmade and precious. Photos on the mantle showed Raven with various bikers at rallies and charity events. Life lived in leather and loyalty. "Bathroom's down the hall if you need it," Raven said. "Bedroom's the second door on the left. Why don't you take a look while I save those cinnamon rolls from becoming charcoal?" Lily walked slowly down the hallway, Bear following at a respectful distance, Tank padding along like a furry shadow. The bedroom door was open. Inside was simple but intentional full-size bed, with a patchwork quilt, small dresser window, with curtains that had stars embroidered on them, a lamp shaped like a motorcycle. On the bed sat 3 stuffed animals that looked well-loved, and on the wall hung a photo of Raven with a young girl, maybe 12, both grinning with gap-toothed smiles. "That was my niece, Hannah Raven," said from the doorway. "Used to stay with me every summer until she grew up and moved to Seattle for college. Been a few years since this room had anyone in it. Felt like it was waiting." Lily touched the quilt. "Waiting for me? Maybe. Or maybe just waiting for someone who needed it. Can I really stay here? Long as you want. We'll figure out permanent later. For now, this is home." Lily sat on the bed, slowly testing its softness, and her whole body sagged with relief at finding something that didn't hurt, that welcomed instead of punished. Tank immediately jumped up beside her, despite Raven's half-hearted protest, laid his massive head in Lily's lap, and sighed like his life's purpose was complete. Bear leaned against the doorframe, watching this child who was his blood, and also a stranger, watching her begin to unfold in safety. His phone buzzed. Text from Hawk. 20 brothers circling neighborhood. "Nobody comes near that house without us knowing. Get some rest, old man. We got this." Bear typed back, "Thank you, brother. Always." In the kitchen, Raven pulled slightly burned but salvageable cinnamon rolls from the oven and started the promised hot chocolate. Bear emerged from the bedroom, leaving Lily and Tank to bond in peace. "She okay?" Raven asked. "She's processing. This has to feel surreal. 12 hours ago, she was hiding behind a vending machine. Now she's got a grandfather, a house of bond, and a community of bikers who'd burn the world down for her. Thinks she can handle it." Bear thought about the way Lily had launched herself at danger with nothing but a teddy bear and determination. "She's stronger than all of us combined. She'll handle it. They stood in comfortable silence, two people who'd seen enough darkness to recognize light when it showed up unexpectedly. Outside, motorcycles rumbled past at irregular intervals. Inside, a little girl was falling asleep in a real bed with a real dog and real safety for the first time in memory. What about Derek and his friends? Raven asked quietly. Sheriff won't find them on his own. They've gone to ground. They'll surface. Men like that can't help themselves. They'll get drunk, get cocky, post on social media. Someone will see them. And when they do, Bear's voice hardened, we'll be waiting. Hawk planning something. Hawk's planning presence. Legal presence. We're not vigilantes, Raven. We're witnesses. Loud, unavoidable witnesses who make it very clear that nobody touches that little girl again without consequences. Raven smiled grimly. I do love consequences. Christmas Day passed in strange suspension. Lily slept until noon, body finally allowed to rest without fear. She woke to hot chocolate and slightly burned cinnamon rolls, and Bear sitting in the living room like he'd promised present constant real. They watched old Christmas movies without really watching them, played with Tank, existed quietly in the space safety creates when it's finally allowed in. Evening brought a tentative knock. Hawk and three others chains Danny and a biker named Virgil Ghost Patterson, who specialized in finding people who didn't want to be found. They gathered in Raven's living room, keeping voices low while Lily played with Tank in her bedroom. Derek Walsh is in the wind, Ghost reported. Kyle Murphy and Brad Collins, too. Trucks found abandoned 20 miles north. They're on foot or got new transportation. Family, Hawk asked. Derek's wife, Julie, filed for divorce this morning. Restraining order, too. Took their daughter and moved to her sister's in Billings. She's cooperating with police, gave statement about years of abuse. Kyle's parents won't talk to him. He burned those bridges years ago. Brad's brother said if he shows up, he's calling cops himself. So they've got nobody. They've got each other, and they've got scared. Scared men make stupid choices. Bear spoke up. What's the mood out there among the brothers? Hawk met his eyes. Videos gone worldwide. 20 million views and counting. Every biker forum, every club page, everyone's seen it. Seen that little girl cover you? Seen Derek hit her? He paused. We've had calls from clubs in 15 states offering support. Iron Horsemen out of Ohio. Banditos from Texas. Even some outlaws from Illinois. Everyone wants to know what we need. We need them, Patient Bear said firmly. This gets handled right. Legal. No vigilante justice that gives Derek's lawyer ammunition to play victim. Agreed, but we also need presence. Show of force without force. Make it clear that Lily's protected. How? Hawk smiled. Planning a ride day after tomorrow. Every club that wants to show support. We estimate maybe 500 bikes converge on the courthouse here in town, peaceful assembly, deliver petition to D. A demanding full prosecution. Media will be everywhere. Lily's story goes from viral to legendary. You cleared this with Sheriff Reeves. He suggested it. Tom's a good man. He wants Derek locked up as much as we do, but he needs public pressure to make sure DA doesn't plea bargain down to nothing. Bear considered. Lily doesn't need to be there, right? She's been through enough. She doesn't need to be. But Hawk hesitated, might be good for her to see. To understand she's not alone. That when someone stands up for good, good stands up for them back. From the hallway, a small voice. I want to go. They turned. Lily stood in the doorway, Tank beside her, Mr. Patches under her arm. Her shoulder was still bandaged, bruises vivid against pale skin, but her eyes held something new. Determination. Lily Bear started. Those men hurt me because I tried to protect you. If people are writing to say that was wrong, I want to be there. I want to see. Raven knelt to her level. It'll be loud, sweetheart. Lots of bikes, lots of people. Might be scary. I'm already scared. But I'm also tired of hiding. Mommy always said being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. The bikers exchanged glances. This 7-year-old was lecturing them on courage, and she was absolutely right. Okay, Hawk said gently. You can come, but you stay with Bear and Raven the whole time, and if it gets too much, you say so, and we leave. Deal. Deal. That night after Lily had gone to bed, and the bikers had left, Bear and Raven sat on the porch despite the cold breath fogging in the air, watching stars that look close enough to touch. You know this changes everything, Raven said. Not just for Lily, for you. You were ready to ride off into the sunset, old man. Die alone like the tragic hero. Now you've got a granddaughter who needs you. I know. You scared, terrified. I failed Michael, failed Emma. What if I fail her too? You won't. How can you be sure? Raven turned to look at him fully. Because you're asking the question. People who fail are the ones who think they can't. You're already thinking about how to do right by her. That's half the battle. Inside, Tank barked once his alert bark. Both of them tensed. But then they heard it, Lily's voice soft and sleepy talking to the dog. It's okay, Tank. Just a dream. We're safe here, Bear promised. The dog quieted, silence returned. Bear felt something in his chest crack open, some frozen place thawing after 15 years of winter. She believes me, he said wonderingly. After everything she believes, I'll keep her safe. Then don't prove her wrong. The next day brought lawyer consultations, paperwork, phone calls with CPS workers who were skeptical but willing to give temporary guardianship to Raven pending investigation. Bear's blood relation helped. So did character references from Sheriff Reeves, from Dr. Walsh, from Tommy Anderson, from 24 bikers who showed up personally to vouch for Bear Sullivan's character, and Raven Blackwood's suitability as a guardian. The system moved slowly, but it moved. And while it moved, Lily learned what normal felt like. Breakfast at an actual table. Clothes that fit donated by club members with daughters who'd outgrown them. School enrollment paperwork started. A therapist who specialized in childhood trauma scheduled for next week. Small things, normal things, revolutionary things for a child who'd had none of them. December 27th arrived cold and clear. 500 motorcycles gathered in the parking lot of Evergreen Community Church on the edge of town, engines idling in a symphony of controlled power. Clubs from 7 states, Hells Angels, Iron Horsemen, Banditos, outlaws, even some independents who rode solo but believed in the cause. Leather and denim and patches that normally meant territorial disputes, all here for one purpose, for Lily. Bear helped her into Raven's truck, adjusted the seatbelt around her still healing shoulder. You sure about this? I'm sure. The convoy formed up Raven's truck in the middle like precious cargo in a military escort. Hawk led from the front. Ghost took the rear. And between them, 500 bikes rolled through town in formation so precise it looked choreographed, which in a way it was. Years of riding together taught you how to move as one organism, how to be both individual and collective. People lined the streets, some cheered, some held signs. We stand with Lily, protect our children, justice for the brave girl. News cameras filmed from every angle. Lily pressed her face to the window, eyes huge. There's so many. There'll be more, Raven said. Word got out. The courthouse steps overflowed with people when they arrived. Sheriff Reeves stood at the top, dressed uniform, crisp expression, neutral, but eyes warm when he saw Lily being helped from the truck. Hawk approached with a document petition signed by 12,000 people demanding full prosecution of Derek Walsh, Kyle Murphy, and Brad Collins. The DA, a sharp woman named Margaret Thornton, accepted it personally. The people have spoken, she said into the microphone someone had set up. When a child is harmed, when cruelty is documented and viral, when the evidence is overwhelming, we prosecute to the fullest extent. No plea bargains, no reduced charges, full accountability. Cheers erupted. 500 bikes revved in approval, sound rolling across the town like thunder. Then Hawk did something unexpected. He gestured Lily forward. She froze. Bear knelt beside her. You don't have to. You never have to. But Lily looked at the crowd, at the signs, at the bikers who'd shown up for her, and she made a choice. She walked to the microphone, Tank somehow having escaped the truck and now glued to her side like a furry bodyguard. Someone lowered the mic to her height. She stared at it, then at the sea of faces. I'm Lily, she said, voice small but clear. I'm 7. 3 days ago, I was alone and cold, and I thought nobody cared about kids like me. Then I met Bear, and he was kind, even though he didn't know me. When bad men tried to hurt him, I did the only thing I could think of. I stood in the way. She touched her bandaged shoulder. It hurt. But you know what hurt more? thinking that I'd have to go back to being alone after, that nobody would care what happened to me because I'm just a kid with no family. Her voice grew stronger. But I was wrong. I have family now. I have Bear and Raven and Tank, and I have all of you. You came here for me. See, 500 motorcycles came here because one little girl decided good things were worth protecting. Tears on her cheeks now. Thank you. Thank you for showing me that being brave matters, that standing up matters, that I matter. She stepped back. The crowd was silent for 3 heartbeats. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then 500 bikers and 2,000 townspeople applauded until their hands hurt, until the sound became something physical, something that held Lily up and told her what words couldn't. You're not alone. You never have to be alone again. Bear lifted her into his arms, mindful of injuries, and she buried her face in his shoulder and cried the kind of tears that heal instead of hurt. That evening, as they drove home with Tank sprawled across the back seat and Lily drowsing against Bear's shoulder, Raven's phone buzzed. Text from Ghost. Found them. Derek's at his cousin's cabin near Flathead. Sheriff's been notified. Arrest happens tomorrow morning. She showed Bear. He nodded, once grim satisfaction in his eyes. Justice was coming, slowly, legally, properly. But it was coming. And Lily, curled safe between her grandfather and her guardian, slept without nightmares for the first time in months, dreaming of motorcycles that sounded like thunder and angels who wore leather instead of wings. The arrest happened at dawn 3 days after Christmas. Derek Walsh, Kyle Murphy, and Brad Collins were taken into custody without incident at a cabin 40 miles north of town, hungover and stupid enough to have posted photos on a private Instagram account that wasn't private enough. Ghost had found them within 24 hours. Sheriff Reeves and FBI agents, because the video had crossed state lines and triggered federal interest, executed the warrants with precision that left no room for legal maneuvering later. Lily was eating breakfast when Bear's phone rang with the news. She watched his face change, watched tension she didn't know he'd been carrying drain away like water finally allowed to flow downhill. They got them, he said simply. Raven paused mid-pour of orange juice. All three, in custody, arraignment scheduled for tomorrow. Lily set down her spoon carefully. Does that mean they can't hurt anybody anymore? That's exactly what it means, sweetheart. She nodded, processing, then returned to her cereal, like this was just another piece of information to catalog rather than the ending of a nightmare. But her shoulders sat different after that. Lower, looser. The constant vigilance that had kept her alive on the streets finally allowed to rest. That afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Sheriff Tom Reeves arrived in his personal truck rather than his cruiser off duty, but still carrying that particular gravity law enforcement never quite sheds. Tank barked once, then recognized him from the courthouse rally and transformed into a wagging mess of enthusiasm. Mr. Sullivan, Miss Blackwood. He nodded to each, then focused on Lily, who'd appeared in the doorway with Mr. Patches under her arm, wary of uniforms, even when they came bearing kind intentions. And you must be Lily. I'm Sheriff Reeves. Mind if I talk to you for a minute? She looked to Bear, who nodded encouragement. It's okay. Tom's one of the good ones. They sat in Raven's living room, adults on the couch, Lily in the armchair with Tank's head in her lap. Reeves pulled out a tablet, tapped a few times, turned it toward her. I want to show you something, but only if you're okay with it. You can say no. What is it? It's the video. The one from that night. I need to warn you, it's hard to watch. You're in it, and what happened to you is in it. But I think you should see it. See what the whole world saw. Lily's fingers tightened on Mr. Patches. Bear leaned forward, ready to intervene, but Lily spoke first. Okay, I can watch. Reeves hit play. The footage was shakier than Lily remembered Brad's drunk hands unsteady on his phone. But the audio was crystal clear. Derek's slurred aggression, the sound of the coffee splashing. Bear's genuine apology. The shove, the fall, the Harley crashing down. Kyle and Brad's cruel laughter. Then Lily appeared on screen, small and desperate summer dress, too thin for the cold. Her voice cracked as she begged, please don't hurt him. The offer of Mr. Patch's arms, shaking with the weight of her only possession, held out like it could possibly be enough ransom for a life. Derek's mocking laughter, Santa. You think this old bastard is Santa Claus? And Lily's response raw and honest and completely devastating. I think he's good. I think he's the only good thing I've seen in forever. And you can't kill good things. There's not enough left. On the couch, Bear's eyes filled. He'd heard about this moment, but hearing this child articulate a philosophy of protection born from loss and loneliness hit different. The video continued. Derek grabbing for her, the bat rising, the sickening crack as it connected with her shoulder and back. Her scream, her refusal to let go of Bear even as pain radiated through her small body. The video ended. Lily stared at the blank screen. 23 million people have watched that, Reeves said quietly. 23 million people saw what you did. Saw you choose someone else's safety over your own. Saw you offer everything you had to save a stranger. I didn't do it for people to watch, Lily said, voice small. I did it because he was kind. Because kind people shouldn't die for being kind. I know. But those 23 million people, they're part of why Derek and his friends are in custody right now. They're part of why Dia Thornton is prosecuting with everything she's got. They're part of why the FBI got involved. Fund. Your courage didn't just save Bear that night. It woke up a whole lot of people who'd have been asleep to cruelty happening right in front of them. Lily looked at Bear. Did I really save you? You really did, little lily flower. Then it was worth it, even if it hurt. Reeves cleared his throat, visibly moved. There's something else. Derek's wife, Julie, she wants to meet you, if you're willing. She has something she wants to say. Wariness crept back into Lily's expression. Why? Because you saved her too, in a different way. The meeting was arranged for the following day at Raven's house, neutral territory, where Lily felt safest. Julie Walsh arrived with her daughter Emma, 5 years old, blonde hair and pigtails, eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. No relation to Bear's lost Emma, just another instance of the universe's strange naming coincidences. Lily watched from the hallway as Raven let them in. Julie looked tired, wore long sleeves despite the heated house probably hiding bruises that hadn't fully faded. But her eyes were clear, determined, free of something that had been weighing them down. Thank you for seeing me, Julie said when Lily finally emerged from the hallway, Tank at her side. I know this might be strange, but I needed you to know what your bravery meant. They sat Julie and little Emma on the couch, Lily in her chair, with Tank, Bear, and Raven hovering protectively nearby. 2 weeks before Christmas, Julie began, voice steady despite the tremor underneath. Derek beat me in that gas station parking lot, worse than usual, in front of our daughter. Your friends, she nodded to Bear, they stopped him, made him leave. I thought that would be the end of it, that he'd be ashamed, maybe change. She laughed bitterly. But men like Derek don't change from shame. They get angrier. He came home that night and told me that those bikers had embarrassed him, made him look weak, said he'd get even. I didn't know if he meant it. Derek said a lot of things when he was drunk. But then Christmas Eve happened. Then I saw that video, saw him hit you, a child, because you stood between him and his revenge. And I realized that could have been Emma. He was capable of hurting a 7-year-old stranger. What would stop him from hurting his own daughter? Tears now, but Julie's voice didn't break. I called my sister that night, packed a bag while Derek was hiding from the police, filed for divorce the next morning. Restraining order, same day. I'm staying with family now, starting over, and Emma, she pulled her daughter close. Emma is safe, because you showed me what courage looks like. Little Emma spoke up, voice high and sweet. Daddy hurt you, Lily nodded. I'm sorry. He hurt Mommy too sometimes, but he can't anymore because Mommy said we're going somewhere he can't find us. She held out something, a small stuffed bunny, well-loved and missing one ear. This is Mr. Hoppy. He helped me feel brave when I was scared. I want you to have him. So you have 2 friends now. Lily accepted the bunny with reverent care, giving it to Mr. Patches in her lap. Thank you. I'll take good care of him. I know you will. You're brave, braver than anybody. After they left, Lily sat quiet for a long time, 2 stuffed animals in her arms, processing the weight of consequences that rippled out from one choice made in snow and fear. I didn't know, she finally said. I didn't know saving Bear would save other people too. That's how it works sometimes, Raven said gently. One person stands up and it gives other people permission to stand up too. You didn't just save Bear's life, you saved Julie's future, Emma's childhood. Maybe more people we don't even know about yet. That's a lot for one person to carry. Good thing you're not carrying it alone. The arraignment came and went. Derek, Kyle, and Brad appeared via a video link from county jail, looking diminished in orange jumpsuits, the swagger completely gone. They pled not guilty on advice of public defenders who knew they had no case but had to go through motions anyway. Bail was denied flight risk, severity of charges, public safety concerns. They'd wait in jail for trial. Thornton emerged from the courthouse to a waiting media circus. The state of Montana will prosecute Derek Walsh for assault with a deadly weapon on a minor assault on Marcus Sullivan and child endangerment. Kyle Murphy and Brad Collins face charges of assault and accessory after the fact. We will seek maximum sentences. This was not a mistake or an accident. This was intentional violence against a child who was trying to protect someone. There will be accountability. January brought therapy sessions. Dr. Lisa Brennan specialized in childhood trauma, her office warm and filled with art supplies and comfortable places to sit that weren't clinical. She didn't push, didn't demand Lily talk about things before she was ready, just created space and waited. Third session, Lily finally spoke about her mother, about watching Sarah waste away, about the hospice bed and the morphine and the way her mother's hand got colder every day until finally it was just cold. About foster homes that felt like punishment for something she hadn't done wrong. About learning to be invisible because visible meant vulnerable. "Do you still feel invisible?" Dr. Brennan asked. Lily considered. "No, but sometimes I wish I could be. When things get too loud or too much, being seen all the time is exhausting." "What would help with that?" "I don't know. Permission to disappear sometimes, without it meaning I'm in trouble or running away." Dr. Brennan looked at Raven and Bear, who sat in for this session. "How can you create that space for her?" They figured it out. A code word hummingbird that meant Lily needed to be small and quiet for a while. When she said it, she could retreat to her room with Tank and her stuffed animals and nobody would push. Not punishment, just respite. Room to breathe in a world that had suddenly gotten very big and very loud. School started mid-January, third grade at Mountain Ridge Elementary. Lily was behind 6 weeks of living on the streets, plus sporadic attendance before that meant gaps in her learning. But her teacher, Mrs. Patricia Stone, was patient, and a tutor was arranged through the club's charity fund. Math came easier than reading. Science fascinated her. Social studies made her anxious because it involved talking to classmates who'd all seen the video and treated her like something fragile or famous rather than just Lily. She made one friend, though. Sophie Hayes, 8 years old, daughter of the music teacher. Sophie had watched the video too, but approached Lily differently. "That was really scary." "What happened to you?" Sophie said at recess one day, direct and honest. "Are you okay now?" "Mostly." "Good. Want to play tetherball?" Just like that. No pedestals, no pity, just an invitation to be normal. Lily and Sophie became inseparable. Play dates at each other's houses. Sleepovers where they stayed up too late telling stories and eating popcorn. Sophie's parents, Karen and David Hayes, were cautious at first, knowing Lily's history, but they saw quickly that their daughter had found something real. They welcomed her. For Lily, Sophie's house represented something she'd never had: normal family dynamics. Parents who disagreed but didn't fight. A home where laughter was common and fear was rare. She studied them like an anthropologist, learning what healthy looked like so she'd recognize it if she ever got to build her own family someday. February brought the revelation Bear had been both hoping for and dreading. Official DNA test results ordered by CPS as part of their investigation came back definitive. Lily Morrison was biologically Marcus Sullivan's granddaughter. Sarah Sullivan had indeed been pregnant when she left after the accident, had changed her name to Morrison after marrying Lily's father briefly, had kept that pregnancy and that daughter secret from Bear's side of the family, perhaps because the grief was too heavy to share, or perhaps because she wanted a clean break from the tragedy that had swallowed her first family whole. The social worker who delivered the results, Carmen Mitchell, a weary woman in her 50s who'd seen too many cases and not enough good outcomes, sat across from Bear and Raven with paperwork that would change everything. "Mr. Sullivan, the DNA test confirms biological relationship. Lily is your granddaughter." She slid documents across the table. "This changes her case significantly. You have legal standing to petition for custody. Given your age and single status, it would likely be guardianship rather than adoption. But combined with Ms. Blackwood's application and her established residence as temporary guardian, we could structure a shared arrangement. What does that mean in plain English? Raven asked. It means Lily can stay with you as primary caregiver, with Mr. Sullivan having full visitation and decision-making rights as biological family. Not traditional, but given the circumstances, her clear attachment to both of you, the community support her stability here. It's the best outcome for her well-being. Bear's hands shook as he signed forms. After 15 years of believing his line ended with Emma's death, he had family again. Had a reason to stay healthy, stay present, stay alive beyond just existing day to day. They told Lily that evening, both of them nervous, despite the fact that she already knew Bear was her grandfather. Paperwork made it official in ways that felt both more real and more fragile. So I get to stay, Lily asked, looking between them. This is my home for real. For real, Raven confirmed. Unless you decide you want something different. But yeah, kiddo, this is home. Lily processed this. Then can I call you Grandpa Bear instead of just Bear? His eyes burned. I'd like that very much. And Raven, can you be Raven Mom? Like not replacing my real mom, but being a different kind. Raven's tough exterior cracked. Yeah, little bird, I can be Raven Mom. Lily nodded satisfied, then ruined the sentimental moment entirely by asking, can Tank sleep in my room every night now? Since this is actually my room. Tank already sleeps in your room every night, Raven pointed out. Yeah, but now it's official. They laughed, tension breaking, and Tank, who understood his name and the word sleep, immediately went to Lily's bedroom and sprawled across her bed like he'd been given executive orders. March brought spring thaw in the trial. D.E. Thornton had built a case so airtight it barely qualified as a trial. Video evidence, medical reports, testimony from Tommy Anderson, from witnesses at the gas station from Dr. Walsh, character witnesses for Derek's history of violence, Julie's divorce filing and protective order entered as pattern evidence. Lily didn't have to testify in person. Video deposition taken with Dr. Brennan present, just Lily answering questions in a comfortable room rather than a courtroom. The jury watched her explain in her small, clear voice why she'd stepped between the bat and Bear. Because good people are rare, video, Lily said. And if all the good people die, what's left? The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Derek Walsh, 8 years for assault with a deadly weapon on a minor plus 3 years for assault on Bear, sentences to run consecutively. Kyle Murphy, 6 years as accessory and for his role in the assault. Brad Collins, 5 years for recording and sharing the video without intervening for fleeing the scene for obstruction. Not life sentences, but enough. Enough to keep them away from Lily through her entire childhood. Enough to send a message that hurting children had consequences. Lily watched the verdict on TV with Grandpa Bear, Raven Mom, and Tank. When the judge read guilty, she felt something unknot in her chest that she hadn't known was still tied. It's over, she asked. This part is Bear confirmed. They'll appeal, but they won't win. It's over. She leaned against him, his arm coming around her shoulders, carefully mindful of scars that had healed physically, but remained tender in memory. Thank you for not leaving, for staying even when it was hard. Thank you for saving my life, for reminding me it was worth living. April brought Lily's 80th birthday. The first birthday since her mother died that didn't feel like mourning. Raven threw a party modest, just Sophie and a few other kids from school, Grandpa Bear and Hawk, and a handful of bikers who'd become uncles in everything but blood. The cake was chocolate with vanilla frosting. The presents were thoughtful art supplies, books, a new jacket that actually fit. But the best gift came from Bear. This was your grandmother's, he said, presenting a small wooden box. Inside was a locket on a silver chain. Emma wore it. Your mother Sarah wore it. Now it's yours. Lily opened the locket. Inside were 2 photos, one of Sarah as a young woman smiling and alive and healthy. The other of Emma at 7, gap-toothed grin and eyes full of mischief. So I can remember where I came from, Lily whispered. And so you know you come from brave women who loved fiercely. Bear corrected. That's in your blood, Lily. Courage and love. You proved it that night in the snow. She wore the locket every day after that. Touched it when things got hard, when nightmares crept back, when the world felt too big. A reminder that she wasn't the first Morrison Sullivan woman to face darkness and choose light anyway. Summer brought healing in unexpected forms. Raven enrolled Lily in riding lessons horses, not motorcycles, though Hawk joked that motorcycles would come later. Lily loved it. Loved the trust required between rider and horse. Loved that something so big and powerful would choose to listen to someone so small. Her instructor, a weathered cowboy named John Ellis, who ran the stables, saw something in Lily. She's got gentle hands, he told Raven after the third lesson. Natural feel for what the horse needs. That's rare. She's had practice taking care of things that are scared. Raven replied, thinking of how Lily had saved Bear, how she'd comforted little Emma Walsh, how she approached Tank with infinite patience when he was anxious. By August, Lily was confident enough to ride solo. Small victories. Normal childhood experiences that had been stolen and were now being returned piece by piece. September brought fourth grade and a school assignment that changed something fundamental. Mrs. Stone asked students to write about their hero. Most kids chose parents, firefighters, astronauts. Lily chose differently. She wrote about her mother first, about Sarah's courage fighting cancer, about working 2 jobs to keep them housed and fed, about dying with grace, and making sure Lily knew she was loved even when she couldn't stay. Then she wrote about Bear, about a stranger who'd been kind to a gas station clerk, who'd stared at stars like he was reading poetry, who'd promised not to leave, and kept that promise even when keeping it was hard. Then Raven, about a woman who'd walked away from a broken system to fix things herself, who'd opened her home without hesitation, who taught Lily that family was choice as much as blood. But the last paragraph was about herself. My biggest hero is me from last Christmas. Because she was scared and alone and had every reason to hide, but she didn't. She saw something good worth protecting, and she protected it even though it hurt. I want to be like her when I grow up, brave enough to stand between bad things and good people. Brave enough to believe that one person can make a difference. Brave enough to keep getting up even when the world knocks you down. Mrs. Stone submitted the essay to a statewide competition. It won, first place in the elementary category. The prize was $500 in publication in an education journal. Lily donated the $500 to foster care support services. So other kids don't have to live behind vending machines, she explained simply. The publication brought another wave of attention. More interviews requested, more people wanting to tell Lily's story. Raven and Bear shielded her from most of it, but they let her do a segment on a local news channel where she could talk about foster care reform and childhood homelessness. People don't see homeless kids, Lily said to the camera with remarkable composure for an 8-year-old. They look away or assume someone else is handling it. But nobody's handling it. Kids are falling through cracks big enough to swallow. I almost got swallowed. I was lucky. But luck shouldn't be what saves kids. We need systems that work. We need people who care enough to fix what's broken. The segment went viral. Not as big as the original video, but enough. Enough that Montana's governor called for foster care reform task force. Enough that funding increased. Enough that Lily's name became associated not just with the girl who got hit, but with the girl who stood up and demanded better. December arrived with snow in memory, 1 year since that Christmas Eve, 1 year since everything changed. The gas station had been renovated. New owners Tommy Anderson, having used his sudden internet fame to crowdfund a down payment and buy the place himself. He'd added security lights, cameras, a warming station where homeless folks could come in from the cold. A plaque hung near the entrance, in honor of Lily Morrison Sullivan, who showed us that courage can be small and scared, and 7 years old and still change everything. December 24th, 2024. The unveiling was scheduled for Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after. 500 motorcycles weren't necessary. This time the point had been made, the message received. But 100 showed up anyway because some moments deserve witnesses. Lily stood before the plaque, bundled in a warm coat that actually fit Grandpa Bear on one side and Raven Mom on the other. Tank sitting obediently at her feet, wearing a ridiculous Christmas sweater that Raven had dressed him in over his protests. "You want to say something?" Hawk asked gently. Media was there, but this moment was for Lily to claim or ignore as she chose. She stepped forward. Someone handed her a microphone. "Last year I was invisible," she said, voice clear in the cold air. "I thought being invisible kept me safe. Turns out it just kept me small. When I saw Grandpa Bear about to get hurt, I had a choice: stay invisible and stay safe, or be seen and maybe save someone worth saving. She touched the scar on her shoulder that had faded to a thin white line. It hurt. I won't lie. Getting hit with that bat hurt a lot. But you know what would have hurt more? Living with myself if I'd done nothing. If I'd let a good person die because I was too scared to be brave. Pause. Snow fell soft and quiet. This plaque has my name on it. But it's not really about me. It's about everybody who's ever had to choose between safe and right, between invisible and seen, between giving up and standing up. Most days safe is okay. Invisible is okay. But some days, some really important days, you have to choose right even when it's hard. You have to choose to be seen even when it's scary. Her eyes found the camera. If you're out there watching, if you're scared or alone or invisible, please hear me. You matter. Your courage matters. Even if you're small, even if you're young, even if you have nothing but a teddy bear and a stubborn heart. You can change things. You can save things. You can be the good thing someone else needs to see. She stepped back. The crowd, bikers, townspeople, people who'd driven hours just to be present for this, erupted in applause that echoed off storefronts and carried into the winter skion. Bear pulled her close. Proud of you, little lily flower. Proud of me too, she admitted. Is that okay? That's more than okay. That's exactly right. That evening, the extended family gathered at Raven's house. Not just Baron Raven and Lily anymore. Hawk and his wife Marie, Chains and his daughter visiting from college, Ghost and his partner, Tommy Anderson and his mother, who was in remission, now cancer beaten back by treatments that Hell's Angels fundraisers had helped pay for, Sophie Hayes and her parents. A house full of people who'd become family through choice and crisis, in the strange alchemy that turns strangers into the people you'd take a bullet for, or in Lily's case, a baseball bat. Dinner was chaotic and loud and perfect. Stories traded across the table. Laughter that felt earned. Tank stealing food from anyone careless enough to leave their plate unattended. Sophie and Lily disappearing to Lily's room with Mr. Patches, Mr. Hoppy, and the new stuffed dog someone had given Lily, creating elaborate adventure scenarios that involved rescuing imaginary creatures from imaginary dangers. After dinner, after presents were exchanged and wrapping paper littered the floor, like colorful snow after most guests had headed home, and only Bear remained helping Raven clean up while Lily dozed on the couch with Tank, a knock came at the door. Raven opened it to find a young woman, maybe 22 or 23, bundled in a coat too thin for Montana winter, eyes nervous but determined. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said. "I saw the news coverage of the plaque ceremony. I've been trying to work up courage all day to come here. My name is Emma Patterson. I was in foster care for 6 years. I ran away 3 times. The third time I ended up at that same gas station sleeping in the same spot Lily did." She pulled her coat tighter. "I saw her video last year, saw her stand up to those men. And I thought if someone that young can be that brave, maybe I can too. I called the helpline, got into transitional housing, started GED classes, got my diploma in June. I start community college next month for nursing. Tears now. I just wanted to say thank you to Lily for showing me that asking for help isn't weakness, for proving that kids like us, kids the system forgot, we can still do amazing things." Raven called Lily over. The 8-year-old appeared sleepy and confused, Tank trailing behind. "This is Emma," Raven explained. "She has something she wants to tell you." Emma knelt down eye level with Lily. "You saved my life without knowing it, just by being brave when you were scared, by proving one person can make a difference." She held out a small package. "I got you something for Christmas, for thank you." Lily unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a teddy bear, new soft, both eyes intact, wearing a tiny t-shirt that said, "Courage comes in all sizes." "Now you have 3 friends," Emma said. "One from your mom, one from Julie's daughter, and one from me. So you remember that the bravery you showed keeps rippling out, keeps saving people you'll never meet." Lily accepted the bear with the solemnity it deserved. Then, in a move that surprised everyone, she handed Emma Mr. Hoppy. "You keep this one. So you remember you're brave too. Brave enough to ask for help. Brave enough to start over. That's courage just as important as standing in front of bats." Emma clutched the stuffed bunny completely undone. Are you sure? I'm sure. I've got 3 now. You should have 1 too. They hugged survivor to survivor, 8 years old, and 23 connected by the strange grace that sometimes flows from trauma into healing if you're lucky and stubborn and refuse to let darkness have the final word. After Emma left, promising to stay in touch, promising to let them know how college went, Lily sat with her 3 remaining stuffed animals. Mr. Patches from Mom, the new bear from Emma Patterson, and one she'd received tonight from Sophie's family. Tank sprawled beside her, furry and warm and constant. Raven, Mom, Lily asked quietly. Do you think Mom would be proud of me? Raven sat beside her, pulled her close. Baby, I think your mom is so proud of you she can barely stand it. I think she's up there telling every angel in heaven about her brave little lily flower who saved people and changed lives and turned pain into purpose. I miss her. I know. That's okay. You get to miss her forever. But you also get to keep living, keep being brave, keep showing people what's possible. She'd want that for you. What about Emma, the one who died? Do you think she'd be proud too? Bear, who'd been standing in the doorway listening, entered and sat on Lily's other side. Emma would be thrilled to know you. You two would have been thick as thieves. She had that same stubborn streak, that same refusal to back down when something wasn't right. His voice caught. She'd call you sister, I think. Cousin by blood, but sister by spirit. I wish I could have met her. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. But in a way, I see her every time I look at you. Same courage, same heart. Maybe that's how she lives on through you doing what she would have done. Standing up, protecting people, making the world a little less cruel. Lily processed this, then yawned hugely. Tank echoed it, jaws stretching in sympathy. Bedtime, Raven announced. Big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Christmas. Presents. Pancakes. The traditional Morrison Sullivan Blackwood celebration of surviving another year and being grateful for it. Lily let herself be herded toward Bed Tank, following like a furry shadow. But at the doorway, she turned back. Thank you, she said, simply, for not leaving, for staying even when I was hard, for making me feel like I matter. Bear and Raven exchanged looks, the kind of wordless communication that happens between people who have been through fire together. You made yourself matter, little bird, Raven said. We just paid attention. In her room, Lily arranged her stuffed animals carefully on the bed, each one a story, each one a connection to people who'd shaped her journey. She put on pajamas that fit, climbed into a bed that was hers, pulled, covers that were warm and clean and safe over her body, that had healed from bruises but remembered what it felt like to hurt. Tank jumped up without permission, but with complete confidence that permission wasn't necessary. He circled twice, settled with his head on Lily's stomach, sighed contentedly. Through the wall, she could hear Grandpa Bear and Raven Mom talking quietly, their voices a rumble of safety and permanence. Outside, snow fell on a town that had learned something important about itself, that goodness could come from unlikely places, that heroes wore summer dresses and leather vests, that one small act of courage could ripple out in ways nobody predicted. Lily touched the locket around her neck, opened it to see Sarah and Emma smiling back at her across time and tragedy. I'm okay, Mom, she whispered. I'm finally okay. You were right about angels. They came. They're still here. She closed her eyes. For the first time in memory, sleep came easy and peaceful, untroubled by nightmares of vending machines and baseball bats, and men who mistook cruelty for strength. Instead, she dreamed of motorcycles that sounded like thunder of a grandfather who kept promises of a home that welcomed rather than punished, of a future that held possibility instead of just survival. And somewhere in that dream, her mother smiled. Emma smiled. All the people who'd loved her and left her and loved her still, from wherever the dead watched the living, they smiled too. Because Lily Morrison Sullivan had done what they'd hoped she'd do. She'd survived. She'd stood up. She'd turned pain into purpose, and fear into courage, and loneliness into the kind of love that builds families from broken pieces. She'd become exactly who she was always meant to be. Not perfect, not unscathed, but brave and loved. And finally, after so long being invisible, undeniably, beautifully, defiantly seen. 2 years later, December 2026. Lily stood at the gas station again, but everything was different. She was 10 now, taller, stronger still, thin, but no longer fragile. The station had become something of a pilgrimage site. People stopped not just for gas, but to see the plaque, to take photos, to leave flowers and notes for the brave girl. Tommy kept a bulletin board inside where people could post messages. Hundreds of them. Stories of courage inspired by Lily's. Stories of people standing up when they'd previously stayed silent. Stories of foster kids who'd been helped by the reforms her advocacy had pushed forward. Lily read them sometimes. Not because she needed validation, but because she wanted to remember courage didn't end with one act. It continued, rippled, grew. Her one moment in the snow had become 1,000 moments in 1,000 other lives. She wasn't at the station alone. Grandpa Bear stood beside her, 70, now moving slower but still steady. Raven Mom adjusted Lily's scarf against the cold. Sophie bounced excitedly, delighted to be included. Tank had stayed home, too old now for winter adventures, content to sleep by the fire and dream dog dreams. "You ready?" Bear asked. Lily nodded. Today they were announcing the Lily Morrison Sullivan Foundation, funded by donations that had poured in over 2 years, managed by Hawk and a board of people who actually cared about fixing broken systems. The foundation would provide emergency housing for homeless youth, fund foster care improvements, offer scholarships for kids aging out of the system. Lily was the face, but not the only voice. Emma Patterson was involved now, bringing her experience as someone who'd survived the system. Julie Walsh had joined the board advocating for domestic violence survivors. Even Derek Walsh had sent a letter from prison, not asking for forgiveness, but offering to speak to at-risk youth about how violence destroys everyone it touches, perpetrator included. The foundation wouldn't fix everything, but it would help, would catch some of the kids falling through those cracks Lily had talked about, would be the safety net she'd wished for when she was sleeping behind vending machines and counting heartbeats to stay alive. As media gathered and Hawk prepared to make the announcement, Lily looked around at the people who'd shown up. Hundreds of bikers, yes, that was expected, but also teachers and social workers and former foster kids and random strangers who'd been moved by a story about a 7-year-old who decided good things were worth protecting. A little girl approached, maybe 6, holding her mother's hand, wearing a coat that looked warm and safe. "Are you Lily?" she asked shyly. "I am. I saw your video. You were really brave." "I was really scared," Lily corrected gently. "But I did it anyway. That's what brave means, being scared and doing it anyway." The little girl considered this. "I'm scared sometimes." "Me too. That's okay. Scared means you're paying attention. What matters is what you do next." "What should I do next?" Lily knelt down, eye level, the way adults had learned to do with her. "You find people you trust. You ask for help when you need it. You stand up for good things when you can. And you remember, being small doesn't mean being powerless. Sometimes the smallest people change the biggest things." The girl smiled, hugged her mother, and walked away a little taller. Hawk's voice came over the microphone, announcing the foundation, thanking donors, explaining the mission. Lily only half listened. She was watching the crowd, seeing the faces, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with being someone people looked to. It would have crushed her once. Now she carried it differently, not alone, but distributed among all these people who'd shown up, who'd chosen to care, who'd decided Lily's story didn't end with a bat and a bruise, but continued into purpose and change. "You okay?" Grandpa Bear asked quietly. "Yeah, just thinking. About how weird life is. 2 years ago, I was nobody. Now I'm," she gestured vaguely at the crowd, the cameras, the foundation with her name on it. "You were never nobody, Lily. You just weren't seen yet. There's a difference." "I know, but sometimes I miss being invisible, being anonymous, just being a kid." "You can still be a kid. Nobody's asking you to be anything else." "Aren't they, though?" She met his eyes. "Everybody wants me to be brave. Lily, hero. Lily, inspiration. Lily, what if some days I just want to be regular? Lily, who watches cartoons and eats cereal and doesn't think about changing the world." Bear pulled her close. "Then you be regular, Lily. The world can wait. You've given enough. More than enough. You're allowed to just be 10 years old." Raven joined them. "Speech time, kiddo. You ready?" Lily took a breath, stepped to the microphone. Hundreds of faces turned toward her. 2 years ago, she began, "I made a choice. Stand between a bat and someone I thought deserved protecting, or stay hidden and stay safe. I chose to stand. I got hurt, but I also got, she paused, looking at Grandpa Bear, at Raven Mom, at Sophie grinning from the front row. I got family. I got home. I got proof that being brave matters. This foundation isn't about me being special. It's about all the kids who are just as brave but don't have cameras watching, who stand up in small ways every single day just by surviving systems that weren't built for them, who protect their siblings, who shield their friends, who keep going when everything says give up. The Lily Morrison Sullivan Foundation is for them, for kids sleeping behind vending machines right now, wondering if anyone cares, for teenagers aging out of foster care with nowhere to go, for families trying to escape violence but scared of being alone. We're here. We see you. You matter. Applause, but Lily held up a hand. One more thing. If you take anything from my story, take this. You don't have to be big to make a difference. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to care enough to try. Care enough to stand up when you see something wrong. Care enough to ask for help when you need it. Care enough to keep going even when it's hard. She stepped back. The crowd erupted cheers, whistles, the rumble of motorcycle engines revving in approval. Lily let herself be hugged by Grandpa Bear, by Raven Mom, by Sophie, who squeezed her tight and whispered, "You're amazing," in her ear. Let herself feel the pride and the love and the strange gift of being 10 years old and having already changed the world just by refusing to let cruelty win. But later, when the cameras had left and the crowd had dispersed and only family remained, Lily did what she'd learned to do when things got overwhelming. She said the code word, hummingbird. Raven understood immediately. Want to head home? Lily nodded. They drove back through snowy streets, Tank waiting at the door with his tail wagging like they'd been gone for years instead of hours. Lily changed into comfortable clothes, grabbed Mr. Patches and her other stuffed animals, and burrowed into the couch with Tank sprawled across her lap. Grandpa Bear sat in the chair nearby, not pushing, just present. Raven made hot chocolate, the real kind, chocolate melted with milk and marshmallows. They watched cartoons. Stupid, mindless, wonderful cartoons that required nothing but laughter and didn't care if you were inspiring or heroic or anything but entertained. And Lily Morrison Sullivan Foundation founder, viral hero, inspiration to millions was simply 10. Simply a kid who liked chocolate and dogs and cartoons. Simply someone who'd been brave once and was allowed to rest now, allowed to be ordinary in the safety of extraordinary love. Because that's what family does. They see you at your biggest moments and your smallest ones. They celebrate the hero and protect the child. They let you be everything you are: brave and scared, strong and tired, a remarkable and completely beautifully normal. Outside, snow fell on a town that had learned to look for courage in unexpected places. Inside, a little girl who'd saved a life and changed thousands more simply existed, simply breathed, simply was. And that was enough. That was everything.